Oh. When you're ready, John.
I'm on. We're on. We're live, actually. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. Sorry, we're not streaming to YouTube because both me and Pat have had strikes warnings, so I can't post anything. But you can find me on Facebook, my Facebook profiles, DLive, Trovo, and VK. And I'll do the best I can to share. So probably won't get many views on this. But good evening, Paul. How are you this evening?
Bit late, John. I'm just getting everything sorted, but I'm fine, thank you. Back from London. Our adventure in London. We had a meeting in London last Monday, which went very successfully. If you want to hear my speech, it's on my Facebook page, Paul Rimmer, and it's out there. Have you seen my speech, John?
I have, but because of your speech, Pat's got a warning because of your. I don't know if it's your speech in the Wirral or your speech in London's got a warning for him.
It was London because I mentioned COVID.
Oh.
On YouTube, there's still very strict censorship around COVID, which is an absolute joke, you know.
So today, I don't know if you know, so they've heavily criticised the Met Police, haven't they, over everything really, and all the anti-racist, all the black people in London who shout against the police are all outside the police station shouting at them and stuff like that. But they've said this, but what it is, right? There's police who are non-white who've committed sexual acts or committed rape or whatever. One of them is GETTR, the inclusive diversity policeman from West Yorkshire, and he was convicted of doing crimes. So when they said the Met Police are guilty, is it why are they only focusing on white people when we know there's other ethnicities within the Met Police who've been found guilty of gangsters and all sorts? So,
yeah, I've been following that, John. There's all sorts of things appearing on my screen. I don't know where the hell they're coming from.
Do you get me? I mean, a recent crime I can tell you about last year was an Eastern European policeman who's an immigrant and his girlfriend were convicted of being gangsters. And what they were doing, they was getting tips from the police and then and this guy was getting his friends raid these people's houses and take money and stuff like that instead of it going through the police route. And they were convicted and they're non-white. Obviously, I'm just saying GETTR got convicted. He's in West Yorkshire. But how many other policemen have been convicted in the Met Police who are ethnic minorities? It just doesn't say. It's not really a good thing. Now, I get it. They're full of all this. We know this because there's investigations underway, 100 odd police within the Met. But people are making it out to be a white thing when it's not a white thing, Paul. It's just not. And you know, I can see why Pat's getting angry over this. And I mean, I'm a biggest critic of the police. Me, I'm the biggest. When I've got the names, I'll call them out on live telly or anything. I've been critical of the police on the street, but I also know that I have to, within reason, work with the police and do stuff with them. But it's just ridiculous. It really is just ridiculous.
Well, in my view, policing standards have fallen dramatically, you know. The quality of the police officers. It seems to me that they want to replace the old style police officers, the Dixon of Doctrine sort of characters who've virtually gone now, with what I call rainbow people. And these rainbow people, you know, they've got everything is about being some sort of minority. This is the rule of the minorities, John. So you've got to be a sexual minority or an ethnic minority or a religious minority. And suddenly you put on a pedestal. We have our first Muslim lesbian chief constable. And no one asked the question, are they up to standard? It's just like they tick the right boxes. So the actual, no one's looking at the standards anymore. They're looking at whether they tick the boxes. So the standards gone through the roof. The quality of the people that they're recruiting into the police, the recruits, has gone through the floor. And so we're getting a lot of corruption. We're getting a lot of, the policing's becoming poor. The police, to me, seem a very lazy bunch these days, very ineffective at solving real crime. And so they create this fictitious crime, political incorrectness, people who've dared to point out what is actually happening, And as you're saying now, like they're focusing as if we've got this problem of racism, the big R, the racism in the police. And that shuts everyone up then from asking the real questions. Because the real questions is, when they're recruiting people simply on the basis of their identity, are they compromising standards? And it seems to me it's blatantly obvious they are. Are they allowing things to happen in the police that weren't acceptable in the past? I mean, are the recruits, have they got different values? Now, one concern for me is that, like, people from the Muslim community being recruited into the police have a sort of natural bias towards their own people. And, like, they might have a tendency to be more lenient to their own people. Now, you daren't say that. But when it comes out in their actual operations, when it becomes obvious that this is the nature of the corruption, everything's covered up. And so we've got all these false allegations now about homophobia. What a load of nonsense. Homophobia in the police, as if that's an issue. And misogyny. It sounds like some horrific crime. It means that women are sort of are unhappy. And like somehow men are responsible for that. And you think, hang on. There's something not right here. I mean, I remember years ago, a lot of women were complaining they weren't promoted far enough and they all want to be the chief constable now. It's like, we'll end up with all the bishops in the Church of England will be women. All the chief constables will be women. We've had a few female prime ministers, Maggie, of course, but the ones that follow her, Theresa May and Liz Truss, were absolutely awful. It doesn't matter how good they are at the job, what qualities they bring. What matters is they tick this box, the liberation of women, and so it all becomes a game. But this is serious. Policing is a serious occupation. People having their property stolen, their money stolen, rampant fraud, sexual crimes, and of course all the huge drug industry in this country and all the problems that come from that. And it's just creating this moral corrosion in society where things feel like they're falling apart. And in America they call it the clown world. We've entered the clown world. The people who are leading over us are clowns. They're not focused on reality anymore. They're not focused on dealing with real issues. I mean, all we want from the police is to keep us safe and clamp down on real criminals. We don't want the police to be an agent of social change. We don't want the police to be a box-ticking industry. We don't want the police to be an organization for the progression of minorities. We just want them to do the job, John. And this is true in every area of life. We want people to be functional, to do their jobs properly and do it well. Instead, everything has become like doing your job now is a secondary industry. So, secondary issue. The main issue now is that you tick all the right politically correct boxes. And it's not just in the police. It's not just in the police. It's in politics. It's in industry. It's in banking. This is one of the reasons why we're getting all these banking problems, because they've taken their eye off the ball. It's like, like in football, you can't play a footballer simply because he belongs to a minority. You say, oh, this is the first Islamic footballer to keep goal for Liverpool. He's got to be a decent goalkeeper. He's got to be able to do his job. And then everyone's happy. We're not interested what his background is, what his colour is, what his sexuality is. Can he play football? That's what football's about. You get on with it. If you can't play football, you get found out.
Oh, well, it's just unbelievable. It is with the police, and you know, 18 months ago, I said to Andy Burnham and then the chief constable of Oldham, deputy chief constable of Manchester. 18 months ago, I said you need to do better vetting because the police are may as well be full of crooks, gangsters, and sex offenders. That's the exact words I said to them, and I've known this for a while, and the box ticking doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help. We know what's coming. We know how they're working it and stuff like that. And like you said, the standard of the police has so much gone down in these years than what it used to be. And the standards used to be high. But they're not just doing it with the police, are they? They're doing it with the Air Force. No white men allowed there. Services and every kind of services. And you know, everyone will say to me, oh, well, you're this, that, and the other. Thing is, I've never had a white doctor in my life, but I wouldn't give up any of the doctors that I've got now because I know that they're top of the game. You know what I mean? I know they are good doctors. So I would never give them up because I know the good doctors. I've worked with them. They work with my mum. They know everything about our family, our history. It's easy to work with the doctor. He understands what I'm talking about. So I'd never give him up for anybody else. But you know, we are putting people in positions that they just can't do or they can't handle. But
John, I've had a lot of experience with the police over the years. I'm not a criminal. I'm a Christian, you know that. And I try my best to do the right thing. Now, I've been arrested for political reasons. I've been accused of hate crime, homophobia. What else was I accused of? So I was accused of criminal damage, which was for writing something which was farcical, you know. But on all these 3 charges that I've faced, I've turned the tables on the police. I've been found not guilty, and I've actually countercharged the police once about flying the rainbow flag above the police station without permission. That became a national case, and they had to push an emergency law through Parliament to stop me prosecuting the police. I was successfully prosecuting them. They had to change the law, so I couldn't get the chief constable found guilty. But in all these cases, right? Like I was arrested and taken to Northern Ireland. I had to go to Northern Ireland 7 times before I was found not guilty. It was a protracted case. There was a lot of fees for policing, for legal representation, the court fees themselves, the judges, everything. It must have cost millions, these cases. And they were all totally ridiculous. And that was nothing come of any of them. But the police pursued them. They were politically driven cases. This is what I really wanted to talk about tonight, that everything is being warped in our society through politics. The elite they're abusing the system. They're not listening to the people. They're not interested in the people. All they're interested in is manipulating the situation in their favor and in their interests. People talk about conspiracy theories. These people are conspiring to, I would say, deny us true democracy in this country. Let's face the first issue: immigration. Every election since 1955, the British public have voted to restrict immigration. Just down to sensible numbers. No one's ever listened to them. Every political party has said, yes, we will do that. We will make sure immigration is properly controlled and only the people we want to come to this country will actually be allowed in. But of course, once they've got power, they've just totally reneged on that. So it's not democracy. They're not listening to the people. They never have done. The elite are pushing their own agenda. And we've always hoped that somehow they'll come back to sanity, that they won't unleash anarchy on this country But that's what's happening now, John. That's what's happening, and it's unfair what's happening now, because I would like to stay in a nice 4-star hotel with a swimming pool for nothing, but I'm not a bogus asylum seeker, so I haven't got a hope of that. They're getting poor, inexpensive hotels. I would like to get access to the best social housing available, the new flats that they're building. This is absolutely disgraceful. Councils now, and Preston Council is the latest, are building housing and flats for these bogus asylum seekers. But the people who are resident here, the British people, are being turned away as if they're sewer rats. They're unwanted and they're being chased. And you can wait on that housing list till the cows come home, as they say, for years and years. Doesn't matter if you're in crammed accommodation, doesn't matter if you're homeless, you can wait. You're forced to wait now. And people just come into this country and jump the queue and get our social housing. And, as they say, the CAC is hitting the fan because everything's coming to a head now. And there's a lot of desperation in people. This cost of living crisis. There's the fact that we're not getting the proper resources we need in the NHS and in housing. The resources are going to immigrants above the native population. And we want someone to speak for us, John. I think people are in rebellion mode now. We want a new voice. And we're seeing that in these local elections that are coming up in May. A lot of independents will be standing. A lot of fringe parties will be making their voices heard. And I think it's about time the British turned away from the Lib Lab Con, the political elite, which has deceived us and reneged on us year after year, and vote for these independents, vote for new parties like the National Housing Party, and give new voices a say, people who actually do speak for the people. And I'm looking to you, John, for this, because you are a spokesman for the people.
I am, but I have said this many a times about the independents and hyperlocal political parties that since pre-referendum they've been building up. We've got now well over 200 hyperlocal political parties. That's political parties. And independents, the percentage of independents running in elections now is up by thousands of percent.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It's all good. It's good for us, and it tells us that voting's changing. And if we went back 20 years and if we look at the amount of votes that Labour and Conservative used to get then, they don't get nowhere near that, Paul. They don't, because they're losing votes all the time. We've got all the reform parties and all that taking their votes. But now everyone's really, really pissed off with all the parties, because even the reform and all that are still pro refugee, and whereas most of the working class are not. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is very important that people start to vote and get involved in elections. Don't cost you nothing in a local election, and you can, as long as you know people and you can talk and you know people in your area, you'll get votes. As simple as you'll get votes.
Now we've had, since the last general election in 2019, obviously we've supposedly left the European Union, although we're still paying a fortune into it, and we still seem to be under the control of their judges in the European Court of Human Rights. But we're no longer having the European elections, which were PR, proportional representation, and gave the smaller parties a good chance of having their voices heard. So it's only really these local elections that will give the British public the chance to kick the Lib Lab Con between the legs. And they've got to take it. My message to the British people is, do not vote for the establishment party. People say, I'm not voting for the Tories. Fine. Don't vote for Labour. They're just as bad. They're two cheeks of the same backside. They're both a waste of time. Neither of them listen to the people, and neither of them have for a long time. They make their own policies within the party, and they might try and deceive the people, but they won't work in the interest of the people. They work in the interest of themselves, of their donors, and of their interest groups. So we need independent voices. We need new parties like the National Housing Party. These voices will represent the people. Now, with the likes of COVID, we've got this guy, Andrew Bridgen, the Tory MP. He's trying to raise concerns about the number of excess deaths that are taking place, and they are taking place. And what happened with the vax? Can we question the vax? Now we're seeing, in YouTube are still very strict on censoring anyone who speaks about COVID. The media are very strict about it. The MPs actually walked out of the chamber of the House of Commons. Don't know if you saw that, John, when Andrew Bridgen spoke.
Yeah.
So the political elite don't want to face the music about COVID and what they did. That they wrecked the economy, they wrecked a lot of people's lives, and there's really big questions about this vaccine. I mean, I never took the vaccine and I never will because I didn't trust it. But it was forced on a lot of people. A lot of people told if they didn't take it, they would lose their jobs, etc. I mean, there has to be some sort of reckoning, some sort of accountability for what went on. But, it's the same with immigration. They keep saying to us, we're going to reduce immigration to the tens of thousands, but it just goes up and up and up. They're actually lying to us and deceiving us, and they won't do what is necessary. But now it's coming to a head. And we don't want these groups of undocumented, people don't know where they come from. They don't know who they are. They could well be criminals being just dumped in our communities. It's not acceptable. And the politicians have got to answer questions about this. I mean, I think the Tories are playing a game with all this Rwanda stuff. This is today in London, you're looking at John. This Pat challenging the Met Police exposure. And this is it. This is what they do to the voice of the people. We're excluded. We've got to wake up the British people and say, we need a voice again. The media don't speak for us. The political parties don't. And this is how they react when people dissent and try and, raise an issue. I mean, that to me is physical assault there. He just snatched his phone. He just pushed him. I mean, that's a criminal attack. And this is a guy trying to get involved with the debate. Shameful. Now, is this out on the social media now, John?
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to talk about this? Just narrate what's going on.
Obviously the protests outside the Met Police today over the disgraceful failings and all that, but it's all the anti-racists, and they're all saying the police are racist, white people this, white people that, when it isn't just white people, because a lot of different ethnicities within the Met Police. He snatched his phone, that guy there, and I know Pat was saying things like anti-white, this and that, but I mean, if I came here, how would they treat me? Because if they think they'd be treating me the same way they treated Pat, honestly, I'd be kicking off with police until they got arrested. But one of them guys is Lee Jasper, veteran anti-racist. And it's just ridiculous. They said it got no sound, but I am going to post the clip on with all the sound to that. But just because he got a different opinion, if I was these people and Pat came over, I'd stop, take him to the side, right, debate with me, get your camera out, what are you talking about? Let's have a debate. What anti-white? Why do you think it's anti-white? Then he'd say, but these people don't even give you the chance. They don't even give you the chance. And I'm not accepting that, me. I am going to say these things. I've said the difficult questions in front of the police, chief of police, Andy Burnham. These people are nothing compared to the people I've talked to and said difficult questions. But with the fact that they're not answering and they're wanting trouble, just tells me everything.
The truth is, John, they don't want to debate. They don't want to discuss the issues. They just want to point the finger at the British, really, and blame us for everything, But This is symptomatic of the media. The media want to exclude dissenting voices. They just want the left-wing establishment, the politically correct dictators to dominate. Now, their big mistake is that we have Twitter now. We have a medium where we can express ourselves. Not complete freedom, but a lot of freedom. And they don't like it. So if they think they're going to shut us up, they're wrong. Twitter is really rocking because people enjoy freedom. People like to express themselves. People don't like all this censorship, all this labeling of people. Suddenly, if you challenge these anti-racists, somehow you're a racist. Everyone, they want to label people negatively and try and destroy them, cancel them. But, they need to be exposed because they're telling porkies. They're not telling the truth. These people are abusing their positions of power. They're claiming privileges for themselves simply on the basis of race. Now, I don't acknowledge race, John. There's only one race, the human race. We're all people and we all should have a say. They want to put people into categories and they want to start pointing a finger at people. And somehow we have all these privileged groups. Somehow, you can't criticize certain people's behavior or, this phobia or that phobia. And these people now think they're beyond criticism. They can just criticize the indigenous population. They can criticize white people, if you like, but they can really put the boot in hard and accuse us of anything. And we're not allowed to say, hang on, whoa. Let's look at every issue on its merits. Let's be realistic about what the actual problem is here. And we shouldn't have our voices silenced. We should have free speech. I was raised, John, in a country, and you were probably the same. We were told when we were kids, this is a free country. A free country meant you had the freedom to express yourself. Even if it offended other people, you still had that freedom of its expression. You had the freedom to assemble. I mean, we've seen this whole disgraceful episode about this woman praying outside an abortion clinic, praying silently, just asking for God to come into this situation, and she's being arrested. It's an abomination that you can't pray in silence in certain places. Who is dictating this? This is the denial of our basic liberties that we've always held. This is what people fought for in the Second World War. This is what people have always struggled for in this country, for the freedom of everybody to have equal access to the media, to the debate, an open debate about every issue, including immigration, including COVID. There's no-go areas. And the idea that, we can't challenge all this climate hoax is ridiculous. They're imposing agendas upon us and they're trying to silence us all the time. That's the only way to deal with dissent. They denigrate us, they push us to the margin, they're using the police against us. It's communistic, John, and it's unacceptable. I mean, as I say, I've faced 3 court cases on politically trumped up charges. I've won all 3. Well, they call it lawfare, don't they? They get you embroiled in the legal process. They disrupt your life. They charge you a lot of money. And it's all a game to them. But it's not right, John. It's not right. We have a very clear sense of right and wrong in this country. This is our Christian heritage. Jesus is called the plumb line. We can see what is right and what is wrong. And what's going on at the moment is wrong. The way they treated Pat there is despicable. That was a physical attack on a man outside a police station, and the police refused to arrest him. Why? Because he's an anti-racist. As if that gives him a privileged position to go around bullying other people. Pat's got the right to ask pertinent, searching questions. We all have. This is a true democracy. And that's why people have got to start voting for smaller parties, for independents, for the National Housing Party. We're fighting for our civil liberties. And it's so important, John.
Oh, it is. It is. And, I'm sure that the fight is going to be good. But, I mean, so the elections are coming. So people need to be aware there may be hustings going on. I'm guessing there's going to be hustings because there's the members of parliament are running. Now, what they normally do is just invite who they want out of the candidates and don't invite the others. So let's say if I was running as a member of parliament, they'd invite the Labour, all the posh parties, maybe the odd independent party, but they wouldn't invite me. But that's going to go against them, because when I find out the hustings are on, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be asking questions. I'm going to be asking difficult questions. I'm going to be putting my hands up and saying, why are you building temples and giving houses to mosques when we've got an housing crisis? Why are you putting people who don't know about in hotels? And the mad thing is, Paul, last year, they filled one of the hotels up near us. And I did a video on this last Tuesday. And I've done a little video, but it's on my Facebook. But so they filled an hotel up. The members of the public have found out. It's gone on social media. Then the council did an official statement 2 days later. The council didn't even say anything. You know what I mean? And 99.99% of the people I talk to just don't want them there. They don't want them there. You know what I mean? And so let's get to our hustings. When you see your candidate going round, talk to him with the difficult questions. If he walks away from your door without talking to you, then you've won. And you just tell your mates, just, well, I tried to talk about like money going to Ukraine. He just walked away. Don't vote for him. Honestly, this is what it's going to be like. The political class are scared now. That's why they're bringing in these policing bills. This is why they're cutting off our... so we can't film the migrants, because they know what's coming. And in this 2 years has been such an uproar of normal working class people. And they know it's coming. They're trying their best to keep us in that corral. But it's not working. We're not working. Some of the young stallions like me are going to leap over that fence and then I'm free. That's what's going to happen. And it's not just going to happen with me. It's going to happen with hundreds of other people across the country. So please get involved. That's what you need to do, is get involved. We've got a campaign going. We've got 3 candidates running. We've paid for all them leaflets for the 3 candidates. So the first leaflet should start going out in the next couple of weeks. The one leaflet is already drafted. The second one's drafted and signed off. They're just waiting for mine, and then mine will be signed off. But yeah, so we're running 3 candidates. I'm not quiet. I'm not going to shut my mouth, and I'm not going to be politically correct. If it means getting shunned off people for speaking the truth, then I will, because the only thing that's going to do is cause people of Oldham to vote less for Conservative than that, depending on how they treat me and the other candidates. That's what's going to happen.
Fortune favours the brave, John. Fortune favours the brave. The righteous are as bold as lions. You're prepared to say the right thing, you will be given the strength to say it. Now, the people who run in this country, and I regard the Lib Lab Con as the same party now. They're destroying this country through stealth. It's like a secret operation to bring in all these foreigners, to give them all the resources, but beyond that, you've talked about these bills now to restrict our freedoms, to deny anyone who challenges them a voice, to really stamp on democracy. It's like they don't want it to be out in the open. We're supposed to be an open society. We're supposed to value liberty in this country. But we must, and this is really important, we must exercise our democratic right and vote for independence or for small parties like the National Housing Party in these forthcoming elections. It's so important that let the excluded get a voice. And when I say the excluded, I'm now talking about the vast majority of the British people, because we're excluded from the media. It's shocking, you know. I used to love watching the BBC when I was young, because there was open debate. You could hear dissenting voices. Now everyone's cancelled. If you're not politically correct, you're just stigmatized and kicked into touch. If you talk about sensitive issues or, and the whole COVID fiasco was diabolical. The fact that we couldn't talk about these facts, the fact we couldn't question something that was being forced on us, which hadn't even been tested properly, which has proven to be ineffective. It's horrendous. It was like totalitarianism. I mean, now, and then we've got the whole agenda of things like gender, transgender, sexual perversity. We can't even protect our children from that anymore. They're saying to us, the schools have the right to teach primary school children about these sensitive issues. They don't. Parents should have the right to control what their children hear. That's what parents are for, to protect the children. We don't want our kids in primary school given sex education. They're under 11, for goodness sake. Let them be children. And I just don't trust the people in power anymore, John. After COVID, all this climate nonsense, it's all rubbish. Do you know if the climate's getting hotter or colder? The climate's got its own sort of mechanisms. It's not affected by anything mankind does. We're actually exaggerating who we are, that we can affect the global system of climate. It's just so nonsense. We just had the coldest, longest winter since the 1960s. We're supposed to have global warming. What's happened to that? I mean, it's spring has just begun, and I wish everyone a happy springtime. Hope you're enjoying the daffodils out there and the trees about to come into bloom. But it's one of the latest springs for the past 40 years. Spring should really come 2 or 3 weeks ago. Normally, I see the blossom on the trees, but it's been so cold for so long that everything's been subdued. So, what global warming is this? We have rising sea levels. We're all supposed to be drowned by the year 2000. And the sea levels haven't changed. They're the same as they were like 200, 300, 1,000 years ago. It's all a con. And yet, if you challenge this con, if you come up with some facts against it, you either get banned off the social media, you get excluded from the national media, you get cancelled, you won't be allowed to stand as a candidate for the major parties. They're all in this sham together. Something's going on. They're all bought. They're all bought by somebody. There's something really devious going on behind the scenes, the way they're controlling the population. It never used to be like this, John. I used to feel like before Tony Blair, certainly, we lived in a free country and we could express ourselves. Now, someone said to me today, "You're lucky you don't get arrested for the things you say." I said, "Arrested for being part of a democratic sort of process?" I mean, we should have free speech in this country. That should be a cast iron right. In America, they have the First Amendment. It's protected by the law. The idea that they can go out there and they're intimidating people, John. This is the problem. People have become intimidated. They've gone silent, and this has allowed the establishment, the ruling class, the lib-lab con, to literally, and now on a grand scale with all these excess debts, to get away with murder. And
yeah, you're right. Honestly, you're right. And I mean, getting into politics isn't for it's not for weak people. And I don't say this negatively, because what I'm telling you is that a lot of politicians and a lot of the parties, the local parties, the bullies. All they are bullies, and there's no. It's our way or the highway. I mean, you want to on every Labour leaflet in Oldham, they just complain about the Tories, but it's not the Tories who run Greater Manchester. It's the Labour Party, not the Tories, the Labour Party. So why are they slagging off the Tories for their own problems? And we know Labour have never dealt with the rape gang issue. They've never dealt with integration or anything, or they've never dealt with any of these things, which has just festered. but on every leaflet to do with the Labour Party in Oldham, on every speech, they're mentioning the Tories. But again, the Tories don't run Greater Manchester, Paul. It's dominated by Labour councillors and the Labour Party. So they have the control. That's why we've got a Labour London Crime and Police Commissioner. You know what I mean? So the fault lies with the Labour Party. I don't lie with the Tories. And I'm not sticking up for the Tories. I'm the first person who wants them out. I started campaigning against the Tories on my own 2017 when the Tories allowed Salman Abidi's family to come here and blow 22 people up. I was the one protesting against them, and I never forgive them for that. But it's so important, people, you change your mind. Stop voting for the mainstream parties. Once that happens and our councils become more split up and democratic, you'll see change happen in the UK. It's going to happen. It's just at the moment, we're strangled by these mainstream political parties because they control all the media and stuff like that. It's honestly, if Labour lose a majority in Oldham this May, will be the first time, like roughly 30-ish years, then what I'm saying is true, that things will start to change in Oldham. And we know it's changing. We've got one hyper-local political party, fails with independence, going for the 6th councillor in 3 years. And these are just normal working class people. They're not ex-Tory councillors and not ex-Labour councillors. They're just normal people who stood up. So it's going to change Oldham dramatically. But just get into the local elections, everyone. I'm sorry tonight we're not streaming on YouTube. I think Pat is watching, but we're not streaming on YouTube because both me and Pat have got strikes for C19. But I am on Facebook, VK, DLive, Trovo, and my other channel, Twitch, and I'll download this anyway, and I'll probably upload it when I get my strike off. But yeah, Paul, like I said, it's really important, ladies and gentlemen, you change, you voting. Vote for these hyper-local and independents. And if you want to stand up yourself, get in contact with us. We're not soft. We're not ignorant, but we are learning, but we can help. We can help anybody. We can help. But,
well, we've got established now, John. We're getting an organisation together. We brought people together. We've raised the funding to buy these leaflets, nearly £1,000. You know, it's not cheap at politics. You need money, you need resources. So anyone who is inclined to donate anything is more than welcome. We need all the resources we can get. But there's a lot of travel involved, a lot of hours now ahead in posting leaflets and talking to people and canvassing on the doorstep. But this is what democracy is about. We're making a sacrifice because we feel that the people need true representation. You know, the American Revolution was based on the slogan, no taxation without representation. And I think the British people are not being represented by the three main parties. That's why I'm in this alternative party, the National Housing Party, to give the British people a representation, to speak on their behalf. I mean, the Tories are imposing higher taxes now. We don't want higher taxes. The local government level, Labour are imposing higher taxes. We've seen it, the SNP in Scotland imposing higher taxes. We need someone to say, stop this. Stop fleecing the working poor. Stop diverting our resources to these bogus asylum seekers. Stop putting the British people second. We want to be first in our own communities. We want our housing to go to local people and local families. We have children who are in need of housing. We have friends and brothers and sisters in desperate need of housing who can't afford the property market now. It's out of the reach of people. The rents are going through the roof. In the past, we've paid taxes, and some of that money has been used to provide social housing for British people, to give people a roof over their head. This is what council housing was all about. That's been sold off, but the government has built some replacement. We've got housing associations. There should be social housing available for British people. And instead, in the last 20 years, 750,000 foreigners, not even British people, not even holding a British passport, foreigners are being given social housing in this country. It's like giving gold away, John, because it's so precious housing. And people are being forced to live in crammed accommodation. Families, if a couple with 3 kids are being forced to live in 2-bedroom houses. The boys and girls are being forced to sleep in 1 bedroom. It's not on, John.
You met Steve, didn't you? Who I've come down to Liverpool with. Lives in a 1-bedroom flat with, and the toilet and the shower area is all set up for somebody with disabilities. But he's not disabled. And Oldham is the #1 place in the UK for disabled people.
Wow.
Honestly, so why is he in that flat? Just couldn't make it up. The cramming them in flats together, like you said. A friend of mine, but she's not family, but she would say that I'm her uncle, and she's called Chloe. And 6 years to get a 2-bedroom property, and she's already got 2 kids. So this is a young family. She could be, there could be more kids coming. So then they're going to have to move out of that property, and it's in her own area as well. It's in her own area. Yeah. Less than a mile away is an hotel full of migrants getting X amount of money, free hotel and all that lot, as well as homelessness in Oldham's quite big, and in Manchester. And there's nothing being done for them. It's just unbelievable, Paul.
Well, there's a desperation out there, John. I always say a father is responsible for his family, his children. You look after your family, you make sure your family have what they need, that the children are protected, that they're provided for. The government has really got that role in the nation. They should take responsibility for the people of this nation, for the British people. And when we have this chronic need for housing, they should provide it for the British people first. Instead, we have open borders. Millions of people have poured in, 1 million people last year. And they're giving our social housing to these people. It's abominable, John. It's just wrong. People who've paid in taxes for years, who've waited for years, who've voted on promises for years, have just been led up the garden path. There's nothing for them at the end of the day. And people are suffering now, and people are concerned about what the future holds. They really are concerned. And they need people to speak for them, as I say, to represent them. That's why we're standing candidates in Bristol, in Oldham, in the Wirral. We're building up a political party. Get involved. This is our opportunity to fight back, to make our voices heard, to stand up to the establishment and the way they're treating us. We're not alone. There's other parties out there, smaller parties, who are campaigning with us. There are many, many independents. We're forming networks across the country, networks of patriots, networks of concerned citizens, networks of people who believe in justice. We're forming them around the country to defend the vulnerable, to defend the British people at this time, because we don't know what the future holds. There's economic storm clouds, and people could get burned. We need to put the British people first. It's a desperate times, and of course, John just mentioned earlier the Ukraine war. How many billions are we sending over there to fight that war? The war's got nothing to do with us. Just a border dispute in the Donbass. Let them resolve it. Instead, we're sending them billions of pounds. We're wasting money. Look at COVID. The money that was wasted on COVID. Billions. Tens of billions. And now we're having to pay the price. And look at the money they're wasting on immigration. I would ask, and our party position is clear on this, we have had enough immigration, more than enough. It's time to stop it completely. It's time to stop all these bogus asylum seekers. It's time to put our own people first and to put our own nation first. That's where we've got to direct our whole energies in the future. And it starts at a local level. You've got to get representation at the local level. We'll be there speaking to people on the doorsteps, listening to people and taking it seriously and hearing what people really want. I know that the established parties already make up their mind what they're going to do. They have a phony election campaign, pretend to listen to the people, and then when they get elected, they go against the people. We've seen it time and time again. They call it pragmatic democracy. In truth, it's not democracy at all. It's just running things according to what they think is important. And it tends to be serving their interest and the interest of their masters at the global level, who control them and who finance them. I mean, I don't think Rishi Sunak connects with the people of Britain. I don't think Keir Starmer does. It was Keir Starmer who led the legal campaign to get illegal immigrants access to our benefit system. It's like our welfare state has been raped, as well as our housing sector, as well as our NHS. Everything is being used and abused, and we're being denied access. We're being denied what we need. And the only way we can correct this is to assert ourselves, to listen to the voices that speak for us, to amplify those voices, to join in with them, to create a bigger platform, to get them in positions of authority by electing them. Your vote is so important. Use it. Use your vote to save this country and to save our communities and to provide a decent future for our children.
It does. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. We're nearly a fast hour, that, but sorry about everyone. I'm not on YouTube at the moment. We will be back next week. I'm not sure. No, even by Thursday, I'm not off. I think it's Friday or Saturday that I'm back, and I wanted to do a stream Thursday, so I'm going to do a stream called the Anti-White Agenda, and
Wow.
I'll get Pat on, and when you watch me stream, you're going to agree with me 100%, 100%. And it's not so much about colour; it's so much about who they're against, and I've always said this, yeah. You know, if you're white, you might feel oppressed, but they're trying to destroy the West in general, not just England. They want to bring down anything to do with democracy and capitalism and the West. And it does involve a lot of white people, but there's lots of other people involved as well who are part of that thing. And that's what they want to bring down, and bring down socialist rule. And stuff like that, which is not good. We know that 100 million people have died through socialism and communism already in this past century. So no, we don't want it. We don't want it. We want to stay as we are. But they're against everyone. But I'll do this video. I'm going to do it with Pat when I can get my YouTube back on. But I mean, it's going to be interesting. But the things I talk about are right there in front of you. And I'll just give you one reason. One thing. So at the moment, they're all going on about drag queens. You look on Twitter anyway, it's just white people, far right, far right, far right. But what you don't get told is that nobody says nothing against Islamic people when they complain against gender identity, when they protested against gender identity. We had a guy in Oldham say live on telly that there could be riots again in Oldham if you don't take it out of schools. Nothing. Nobody said anything. It weren't news or anything like that. It's only news when it's a white person. Just let me get you. Let me just get you there. But thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, John. I'll see you next week.
You will do. You will do, pal. See you later.
God bless. God bless everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry, I'm not on YouTube. I will upload this and get it on YouTube, but this is Party Talk. My name's John Lawrence. His name was Paul Rimmer, the mighty Paul Rimmer from Merseyside, and I'm the mighty John Lawrence from Oldham. But thank you very much, guys. I'll catch up with you all soon. Thank you.